For today's video, I really wanted to put the spotlight onto you because sometimes YouTube can be a really isolating experience. Like your names and comments and everything just seems like text on a screen. So I really wanted to hear your stories and your questions. Thank you so much if you were brave enough to send me a video message or a voice message if you wanted to remain anonymous. I just want to say that I am not a mental health professional. I'm not a licensed therapist. I'm not a counselor. I'm not any of those things. I'm just a 26-year-old girl on my own journey of growth and transformation, and I just wanted to give back in the way that I know how, because I tried to answer your questions as if I was talking to myself or my friends. So yeah, oh, also if you want to be featured in one of these videos, just follow me on Instagram and I'll do an IG story call out for when I'm taking submissions. And with that all being said, let's do my makeup and hear from all of you.
Hey Amy, I'm Audrey, and my question is, what is your perspective on trying to change or work on your attachment style while you're in a relationship? Do you think it's possible, or do you think that this is individual work that needs to be done? Thank you.
Great question. I think short answer, yes, anything is possible, but it's quite difficult. Changing your attachment style is difficult work in general, so it can be hard in a partnership, and I'll tell you a specific reason why. Is mainly because if you are anxiously attached and your partner happens to be an avoidant, dismissive attachment style, that person is actually just going to constantly trigger and mirror your wounds. The more dismissive and the more avoidant they are of you, the more anxious you will get. So there are three main influences on our attachment styles, and that's number one, our personality changes. You know, you're not the same person that you were in high school versus now, so that can really affect your attachment style, because sometimes we're more or less confident in different phases of our lives, and that can influence that. I think the best way that you can change your attachment style, and the possibility is greater when your partner is securely attached, because that gives you the room and the time and almost the resources to really change for yourself, because this person is kind of good on their own. It's just that you need to work on yourself, I guess. I mean, we all need to work on ourselves, right? Because we're all hybrids. Conversely, if you're with someone who is anxiously attached and you're avoidant dismissive, that person who is clinging on to you more and more, they're just gonna make you more avoidant. And so in my last relationship, I don't believe that it was easy for me to change, because unless he was actively working on becoming more securely attached, it was impossible, because we were just constantly triggering each other's wounds and attachment styles. And then thirdly, our self-regulation methods. Like, do you know how to self-regulate your emotions? Do you know how to cope healthily with your negative emotions? And often this can be done through cognitive behavioral therapy, CBT, or mindfulness. Do you have a meditation practice? Are you journaling? Are you able to self-soothe? Because how you handle your emotions has a really big part in our attachment styles. So, short answer, yes.
Hi Amy! First of all, I would just like to say how much I love your videos and the content that you're putting out there. Because of you, I rediscovered attachment style, and now that has been a very integral in my healing journey from anxious, preoccupied to secure. So a question that I would like to ask actually is about your internal landscape when you were still a dismissive avoidant as a person. What was it like to be a dismissive avoidant? I guess, what's it like to date as a dismissive avoidant? And I know there's a lot of people out there that is dating one, and if you can give any, advice to them on how to hold space instead of fix, then that would be great, because there's so much information out there about just avoiding dismissive avoidant, demonizing dismissive avoidant, and I don't think that's very fair, because we need to learn how to be accountable for ourselves and in dating. So that's my question. Thank you so much.
Ooh, okay. Basically, the entire song, Sometimes by Britney Spears, I've been having an early 2000s Britney Spears revival. I freaking love her so much. And I was listening to the lyrics, and I was like, oh my gosh, this was me, this was old me. And basically the lyrics go, I really wish this was gonna be that moment where I sing for you randomly and then you all discover that I have an amazing voice, but I really don't. This is gonna be quite the opposite. It's not that I don't wanna stay. Okay, it's not that I don't wanna stay, but every time you come too close, I move away. I want to believe in everything that you say because it sounds so good, but if you really want me, move slow. There's things about me you just have to know. Sometimes I run, sometimes I hide, sometimes I'm scared of you, but all I really want is to hold you tight, treat you right, be with you day and night. Baby, all I need is time. I would highly recommend reading the book Attached by Amir Levine and Rachel Heller. That will tell you about all the styles. I'll give you so many different perspectives from each attachment style, and it's really fun to read. It's very colloquially written. Someone who has an avoidant dismissive attachment style is someone that when they were a kid, it was not okay to feel. They had to be really self-reliant, almost parent themselves and often parent their parents. And so it was not okay to have a meltdown or a breakdown. It was always having to be really, really responsible and having to just keep it together. So they're often really independent, really self-reliant, and that's not because they don't want you. It's actually they want you a lot. They're just so terrified because often the first encounters of love and care were just so isolating. They weren't given the right, you know, affection and nurturing, and their needs were unmet. So the best way I can explain it is I was terrified of loving and giving my heart away because I was so terrified of being hurt, because growing up I associated being vulnerable with getting hurt because I was always hurt when I showed my emotions. The best way that you can hold space or date someone with this attachment style is really go slow, like Britney Spears said, and give this person a lot of time. And if anything gets too intense, like arguments, they will typically want to walk away. They need to process their feelings and take time and space away. So it's really important not to take that need for space and independence personally, because they need that. I needed that. They're not people who typically ask for support. So it's really important to ask, hey, do you have anything, do you need any favors, or what are your unmet needs or desires? Because often when they're a kid, they weren't given that support. Just allowing that person to just cultivate their own life and their own lifestyle while you also cultivate your own whole full life will definitely help. Let them come to you, you know, let them come to you when they want to hang out. And it's gonna require a lot of patience, honestly, because I feel like it's really, really, really hard not to take all of that personally, right? Because you're thinking, well, if this person likes me, why wouldn't they want to spend time with me all the time, right? That's the exact opposite. It's almost like, I like you and I'm terrified of you that you can hurt me, so I'm gonna try and keep my distance as much as possible until I can open up and kind of come out of my shell. A part of them is almost so deeply wanting that type of love and connection, but the fear is just greater. The fear of being hurt is so much greater that it's just too scary to take the leap or jump.
Hey Amy, I'm a 26-year-old subscriber from Brooklyn, New York. My ex broke up with me early this year in January. We were together for about a year and a half. But he was my first love, so I'm finding it really hard to move on. I recently found out that he got married in August. Since then, I've been having a really tough time. I lost my job, and with the pandemic, I'm feeling really hopeless. I feel like everything was just my fault. I find myself stalking him on social media, which makes me feel even worse every time. At this point, it just feels like an addiction. How can I stop myself from hurting even more and more and more? Thank you so much.
This literally sounds like me not too long ago, a couple years ago, maybe 3 years ago. It was my first love, got dumped, thought it was my fault. Constantly checked up on social media. Every person in your life is a mirror, and every circumstance and every situation is an assignment. I think that we are all in Earth School. Instead of constantly feeling like it was my fault, I wish I had started to see that it's a good thing to take accountability for how things might have transpired in that breakup, but to really understand that things are not happening to you, that things are happening for you, that every single person reflects a narrative and unresolved wounding that you have, and everything is really, really deep. We're in the matrix. Let me explain to you. My breakup from my first love at 22, I think 23 maybe, is what was the full-on catalyst for my deeper dive into self-development, spirituality, all of it. And the best way I can explain it is that we come into this world, and through our programming, we have, mom's comment about weight, society's comment about weight, that one time this person made me feel worthless, that one time this person said I was stupid. All of these things, all of this becomes wound up in our programming. And this is us. This is this like knotted ball, and it's just a matter of our conditioning and our experiences that make us believe that we are not deserving of love, that we think it's our fault for what has transpired. Even if there is some truth to that, it's important to take accountability for, oh, my programming that led me to be this way, to think this way. But when we dive deeper, we realize that we're just all a part of each other's programming and projections of our own lived experiences. And when we meditate, when we find who we really are, we realize it's just all of this. And here we are in the middle, floating amidst all of this programming. This is like the matrix. This is exactly why I bought this. Right now, especially after a breakup, especially after a really hard loss, you're just wound up thinking that this is who you are. You are this wound up, tight experience of other people's projections, of other people's programming, of your own program, of your lived experience. And then when you realize, you can start to have awareness for your thoughts and awareness for your own programming, you start to float, you start to expand. This is literally, you're floating here. You become this floating ball, and you're no longer identifying as all of this, as small and as contracted as this. So the first thing I would say is, number one, please, if you can, go to therapy. A therapist is a mental health professional and trainer. She will help you figure out, or he or they will help you figure out what it is about me that's saying that this is all my fault. And if you can't do that, to really just dive deep on who you are. This is a really good time for self-exploration, self-discovery. Because here's the thing, if you just go into another relationship, you're gonna meet someone else that is pretty much the opposite counterpart to this, you know? It's not gonna be someone super healthy and expanded and someone that, those things can happen, but often when we're so wound up and we don't know ourselves, we attract people who are equally not knowing of themselves. Do you know your attachment style? And also to really dive deep on the narratives, almost the trauma narratives that are being displayed in front of you. I will tell you the first things that I thought when I got broken up with or got out of that relationship. I thought I was not worthy of love. I thought that he deserved to move on. And when I read back on my journal entries, I'm like, oh my gosh, these were all narratives of self-loathing. And self-loathing is just internal fragmentation. It's when parts of you were denied that validation, that love, and that nurturing. And so what is the opposite of self-loathing is self-love, right? But we often don't know how to get to self-love. It is simply connection, integration of the true self. To claim all the things that you think are wounded and to also heal them. And I want you to find so much compassion for yourself because you are going through a breakup. It is your first love. You're going through a global trauma of a pandemic, and I heard you lost your job. Like, validate all of those feelings, give room for all of those feelings, get real about how you feel so you can truly heal. And I think your question is like, how can I stop hurting? Well, first off, checking social media is basically, it is an addiction. You're very self-aware. It's an addiction, and it is self-inflicting your own wound, the wound of self-loathing. It's saying that I almost deserve to feel negatively about myself, so I'm going to mirror that in behavior and go do something that is going to drop my vibration even lower than it already was. There's a part of you that feels 100% deserving of what has happened, but you are so deserving of love and true deep healing, and all of the things that are coming out of you right now, that is a part of your trauma narrative. It's not who you are, it's what the ego has you to believe. And you are so capable and so powerful to change what you believe is the truth of who you are. And it was only up until I had got straight into therapy that I realized, like, wait a minute, my relationship was really toxic. I didn't deserve any of those things, those terrible things that were said to me. And actually, like, I'm angry now because I started to reclaim my self-love. I started to validate that I was not deserving of those things, that I deserve to be happy because I am a beautiful person as well. The good thing about a breakup or any traumatic experience or loss or deep grieving period is that the wounds are coming up to be displayed. And as Rumi says, the wound is where the light peeks through. And so this is a really great time for self-discovery and to ask yourself the bigger, deeper questions, because your relationship is only just a mirror of what's going on internally. Every circumstance, every situation is an assignment from the universe. It is here to help you up level if you find and see the patterns and the behaviors that have led you to feel this way. I would not have become the person I am today if I had not gone through such a crazy, tumultuous, toxic relationship, because I thought it was so normal, but turns out I had a lot of deep wounding from childhood, and that's not anything to be shameful of. It's actually really empowering to know that everyone is deeply wounded, and you can actually turn your trauma into triumphs, your pain into your power, and that you can literally see all of this as happening for you, because guess what? It is. I want to say, honey, you hurt, you feel the pain, all of this, all of your feelings are so valid. Feeling grief, feeling sadness, depression, anxiety, feeling worthless, let them come to the surface. The truth is, no one has ever died from feeling a feeling, but many have trying to escape feeling it. Let's expand the consciousness.
Hi Amy, so I have 2 questions. My first one is, how is someone with social anxiety supposed to fall in love or just meet someone and get into a relationship? My second question is, everybody talks about how you're supposed to love yourself before you can love someone else, but does that mean I have to be perfectly okay with who I am and fix myself until I'm perfect before I can even think about getting into a relationship?
First one, I have no idea. I used to just do dating apps because it gets rid of that weird, like, do you like me? Do I like you? It's already kind of just out of the way. Secondly, your second question, I want to say, get rid of the idea that you have to be fixed. That's the number one thing. Because if you're walking around with that narrative that you have to be fixed, you are worthy and perfect. Self-improvement is awesome, but the ego is what tells us that we are deeply broken human beings that need constant fixing. What we need is just constant expansion of consciousness, you know? We need to expand our awareness and expand our minds. But in a spiritual, authentic sense, you are already whole. You have been born whole. The issue is when you have that narrative that you need to be fixed, we are often going to attract people who reflect that narrative to us, meaning people who are often very toxic, people who we enter codependent relationships, people who may belittle us, people who just tell us, people who cannot see our worth because we simply cannot see our worth. So the idea is that hopefully you can grow and heal and change and transform into a higher level of consciousness so that you can meet someone that is healthy and stable and someone who sees your worth because you see your worth, right? But often because we don't see our own worth, we allow such negative treatment and we date the wrong people, we date fuckboys, we date all these people. And so it's all of our relationships are deep laboratories of the soul. I think Marianne Williamson said that. I love it. But it's just essentially that, you know, whatever we're feeling inside is going to be reflected in all of our relationships because they are in relation to us. Literally, we are an interdependent species. There are people who are like, I want to get my career, I want to do this before I can get in a relationship. But if it's coming from that narrative, it's almost like self-punishment. Out of that, you're self-hating, self-loathing, saying like, you are not worthy until you check off these boxes and then you deserve love. And then on the opposite side of that spectrum is like, I am so not worthy. I need someone to validate. I need someone to make me feel good. I need someone to make me feel loved because I, myself, standing alone, sitting alone with myself, do not feel worthy of it. So it's good to work on yourself. It's just often that we use people and materialism, a lot of different things, a lot of external sources. We try to fix what's going on internally through external sources, but we are all born whole and authentically ourselves. It's just through conditioning and programming and the ego and all of this lived experience, a lot of that gets chipped away.
Hi, Amy. So my question is actually not about romantic relationships. It's about relationships between friends. So my question is, how do you show a friend love that is really struggling mentally? I personally have a friend in my life that is going through a pretty hard time, and they are very much isolating themselves from their entire friend group, including me. And obviously we're not seeing each other, but this person is also choosing not to communicate very much. And so I just would like to know how to show that person that I'm still here for them and I still care for them without, you know, bogging them down or cluttering their mental space, because this person does want space from everyone. But I think it's important for me as a friend to them to still support them and, you know, let them know that I'm here and that I care without, you know, being too much. So anyways, if you can maybe just give a little insight on your own personal experience with that, or maybe if you have been similar to this person and you didn't want people to be, you know, reaching out to you a lot, maybe you could just give some insight there. I love this segment. I love your channel. Thanks so much.
Hey Hannah, I read your email, by the way, and I want to say thank you so much for such a lovely note. When I actually, I'm tearing again. When I actually watched this message the first time, I actually got very emotional, because this is a topic that's very, very near and dear to my heart. You know, I don't want to cry again. It's a topic that's very near and dear to my heart because, you know, growing up, my mom had depression, my brother had depression, and I think every single friend that I've had, every single close friend I've ever had in my life, has struggled or is currently struggling with depression. And depression is a very, very, very complex and very, very, very serious mental illness. If your friend only knew that you were writing into me for this, like, I feel like they would know that they're so loved, so loved. Oh my God, am I gonna keep this in the video? I just feel so sad. Deep breaths. Okay, so the first thing I can say just simply is to show your support, to send them a voice memo, to send them a text message, and even if it gets no response, just make sure to reach out. And one of my favorite resources is realdepressionproject on Instagram, and it's just a great resource for people, for those dealing with anxiety, depression, and other mental illnesses, and it's just really informative in a very infographic way. That was very redundant. When you send that voice memo, or when you send a voice message, when you send that text, these are really good things to remind them of, that you love them even on their darkest days. Their inner critic is wrong, that they're not a burden, and that you're there for them, and to remind them of their positive traits and their talents, because often when people are going through depression, they can feel so worthless. It's like being in an abusive relationship with yourself, having body image issues, having body dysmorphia, just constantly talking down to yourself and beating yourself up. So, and that they have nothing to be ashamed of. Something that I always try to tell my friends that are experiencing depression is that it's not an inability to suck it up. It's not a weakness. Depression and so many mental illnesses have so many different complex factors, and it's actually a sign that you have been too strong for too long, that the body is shutting down, like mentally. It's like, I can't do this anymore because of the trauma, the abuse, the neglect, the bullying, the all of these. There's so many different factors, and it is not their fault, and it's not a human defect. So that's really important to remind someone going through depression, that they don't have to talk if they don't want to, but to always like really encourage them to talk about their feelings. Often when a person is depressed, it's really difficult for them to talk about their feelings. So also just don't expect too much, and then that they're so strong for fighting a war in their mind, because depression may often feel like a weakness to them because of the mental health stigma, and their struggle is caused by depression, not by the character, and that there are better days ahead and that you won't leave them. So those are all nice things to say. And also something that I've Googled and read so much about is to never use toxic positivity when someone's going through depression. I think you can encourage them by setting an example, like, hey, do you want to go on a walk? Because I'm going to go on a walk outside. Those things are good. But to not just say, be grateful, there's so many other people out there who are blah, blah, or things will get better soon. It's not a big deal. Like, there's so many toxically positive things you can say that are extremely dismissive and invalidating to this person who is suffering from a mental illness, a very serious mental illness. I think the biggest thing that I've had to understand and learn, and I'm constantly learning, is that you can't fix someone's depression, that you are not responsible, and it's so difficult and so it just truly is so heartbreaking to see someone you love dearly struggle with that, and you just want to like you just want to take all their pain away. My codependency is coming up. Anyways, you just like care about them so much. But I think at the end of the day, you have to really understand that you are not responsible for someone's happiness, and that you can't fix someone, and that ultimately recovery and healing and wanting to get out of that depression is solely the decision and that choice of that person. While you can help them and to support them 100% and to let them know how loved they are, you can do all those things. It's really important not to feel responsible or in control of someone else's things. And I think that's something that I'm always having to learn, because I just love people so much. But yeah.
Hi Amy, my name is Florian and I'm 24 years old. So I wanted to send this video because okay, when I was 18 I started to identify myself as asexual, and I know that since then I tried to talk about the topic with my friends and people that are around my age to just have the conversation. I guess I think it's something that is necessary to me to just talk about it and normalize it a little bit. But I just realized how most other people feel sorry and uncomfortable for me, as I was weird or abnormal or something. And I guess at first I pretend that it wasn't affected me, but it started to make me sad and make me feel a little bit ashamed, as I lost an opportunity. Like I just wasted my time as I'm started, like I'm in my mid-20s and I've never been in a relationship before, something like that, and I guess I started to use that as a reason of not trying to date or anything, in the sense that the fact that I'm asexual and most of the people that I'm surrounded by are not, and show means that they are not very acceptable of the idea, make me feel okay, really scared of putting myself up there. And also I'm just maybe overthinking it, but it feels like I might disappointing them, even if it's not something that I talked about like at the first meeting or the first interactions, but it might become a problem in the future, and the fact that they might feel like I lie to them, those kind of things make me feel a little bit uncomfortable, and uncertain if it's actually worthy to trying to pursue anyone. So I don't know, I think I need kind of a pep talk and to just like tried to put me out there, just motivated me to try that list, because I think that's the main problem, or my main problem is because I'm so convinced that it won't work out, or that I might be hurt, or I might hurt somebody else. I'm just like, it's better to not do anything. To avoid any kind of disappointment or anything. So yeah, that is my question, and I hope you're well during this crazy time. Bye.
Hello Florian, I think hopefully I'm saying your name right, but actually when your question came in, I myself had to, as a heterosexual, I myself had to do quite a bit of research on asexuality, and what I realized is that asexuality still remains poorly understood by society at large. It is something that is not talked about. We don't have enough representation of asexual folk, or I saw on the internet that it is called, the term is aces. The truth is, people are afraid of or are ashamed of things that they don't understand and things that they don't know, things that are foreign, right? That's the entire idea of a foreigner being scary. You know, foreign people aren't scary, they're just foreign. So first thing I want to say is all of your feelings are valid. I validate all of this, and even in my research I learned so much about asexuality, and that it is deeply a spectrum. You know, sexuality is often seen as a spectrum, and so is asexuality. There are asexual folk that some of them might not experience sexual attraction, but they still are able to have sex happily with their partners, and other people are okay with kissing. Other people are okay with romantic relationships but without the sexual experience, and others are desiring of a non-romantic relationship without sex. And so it is a huge spectrum, and I learned so much, and I think that I have so much more to research. The best advice I can really give to you is get to know yourself. You're an entire universe. I say this all the time, but this is something, study it, Google it, find people and public figures that have your shared experience and people that you can learn from. And I think the internet, with the age of the internet, you can find so much information, and I think it's so sad, unfortunate that asexuality still is not fully understood or examined by society the way it should be. I also want to say thank you for writing this question. I also want to mention and really claim how I am not the best person to ask this about. You said that you feel sad and almost like something to be ashamed of. You have nothing to be ashamed of. It's just scary and weird to you because we don't understand it fully. So the best thing I can say is just really explore asexuality. Find communities that are like you, because they're out there, even on the internet. Everybody is deserving of love, and that love is a birthright. And love doesn't mean sexual intimacy or sexual attraction. If you don't even want to try because you're afraid that you're lying to someone, I think the best best case in any scenario, even as a heterosexual person, is to come to the table with all your cards out, in the sense of, hey, this is who I am and this is what you're gonna get. There are lots of things that are a part of who I am that I want people to know. And I think that in any case for dating, that it's always good to be upfront, and later on, when you're able to get more and more vulnerable with the person, then you can start stating your boundaries and also start exploring more, right? Because from what I've read about asexuality is that it is very fluid, that people's desires and levels of attraction to others, like their partners, may shift and change over time. Right now, I think it's a lot of fear, and you only move in this life through two feelings. It's either love or fear, and we want to move through love, and that you are so deserving of even just getting to know that part of yourself, what it's like to date as an ace. Just get to know yourself, and I am really excited to hear who you become after you start to deeply understand this part about yourself, because it's just waiting to be explored. I would love to explore this as well. Maybe you can come back later and like educate me about everything.
Hi Amy, I love you so much. Your content is like a big warm hug to my heart. So I'm entangled in a relationship with a boy, but we're not together. He is fearful of commitment and hurting me. This might sound like an excuse, but I've learned that he is the most sensitive and sweetest soul I've ever met, and he really cares about me. There are things that are messed up about our relationship that I wish we could get into, but it comes down to the fact that I've connected with him on a level that I'm so scared to let go of. Maybe I don't even love or trust myself enough. For argument's sake, let's just say that other than the commitment factor, everything about us is healthy, though I know that's probably not true. My question is this: how can I move forward fully and flourish? I feel like for some people it looks so easy, but I'm one of those people where it feels really extraordinarily hard. Help. Thank you.
I'm gonna try to talk to you the way that I would a friend, and the number one foundation of a healthy relationship is commitment. So there is nothing healthy about a relationship if there is no commitment. It is a constant push and pull arrangement. It's what we often call like just a situationship, and that is so taxing on the soul. Every person, every situation is a mirror and a time for us to learn more about ourselves. So what I want to ask you is, what part of you says that you are deserving of a love that is non-committal? What is the part of you that says that this is the only connection that you may experience at this level? What I want you to do is write down an entire list of traits and characteristics of a relationship that you dream of in your fantasy world. And I would hope that on that list, the first thing is commitment. It is commitment. I hope that is it. And commitment, investment, emotional vulnerability, stability, all of those things. Because the thing is, we are only going to attract those that are as wounded as us. They are our counterparts. And so if this person is emotionally unavailable, there is a part of you that is emotionally available. There's a part of you that's telling me that this relationship is really healthy besides the commitment. But the blind spot is that a relationship, the foundation of it is commitment. And you're telling me this house is so healthy and stable except it doesn't have walls. Then it's not really a house if it doesn't have walls. Another thing I want to say is it is so difficult for all of us on planet Earth to flourish and move on without ever thinking about the person. I don't know why, but I thought of like Sex and the City, and Samantha has a very like push and pull relationship with this man named Richard, and it makes her kind of crazy. And then she walks up and she just goes, she's like huffing and puffing, going up the stairs to see if he's cheated, because he's cheated in the past. And then she goes, Richard, I love you, but I love me more. And I just thought it was so iconic. It was total queen energy, because yes, you can love this person, but when will you choose to love yourself more?
Hi Amy, I have been going through, I don't know how you would describe it, but It was basically a breakup with someone I truly care about. I met him last year during the fall, and things were going completely amazing. Like, he was the best guy I've met in so long, and he seemed to have a good head on his shoulder. He was such a gentleman, and it felt so good, especially since I was previously treated bad by guys and actually sexually assaulted. So we would have deep conversations and things would just be going great, the dates. And then around the winter time is when he totally did a 180, and I wasn't expecting it. And he would not let me know what was going on with him. It would just be months at a time where we would not talk. And he finally told me that he was depressed. So I didn't know how to get him to open up about his depression. He's just the type that goes into a hole and will not speak to anyone. It really hurts because when you truly care about someone, you want to be there for them and let them know that you're not going to judge them based off of what they tell you. So we met back up this summer. Everything was great. He had told me that was his way of dealing with problems, and he knows it's something he needs to work on, and he's trying, and he truly apologized for how he treated me. And I don't know how to go about this because obviously I'm not a therapist and I can't help him with his depression, but at the same time, I want to be there for him. I don't want him to feel like I'm abandoning him because I can't take on what he's going through. And I don't know about this. So at this point right now, I have not been speaking to him just because I had reached my breaking point of trying to be there for someone who won't accept you trying to be there for them. And I honestly do not know what to do because I do still have feelings for him. What do you think I should do?
I think this is super similar to the question. My response is super similar to Hannah's earlier about supporting someone, a loved one with depression, is really remembering that you are not responsible for rescuing or fixing someone's mental illness. And especially if they are not wanting that support, that it has nothing to do with you, and it's not a reflection of your self-worth and your self-value. It's actually a reflection of them because there's a blockage that's saying, I am not ready to receive the support and the love. I think it's awesome that you were able to have that conversation with him, but I think it's a really good time to ask yourself, what is this reflecting about myself? You are amazing for being a survivor of sexual assault. When you are a survivor, there are so many traumatic effects of a sexual assault. We suffer from deep, low self-esteem, from depression and anxiety ourselves. Really difficult to move on, and I think it is good to take space. I think setting your boundaries and taking space and knowing and trusting your own feelings and honoring them, that you're at your breaking point. You're very self-aware that you can't take this on anymore. You can't fix or rescue or help anyone, especially if they are not receptive to it.
Hey Amy, it's Heather. I was just wondering if you had any advice on how to start a difficult conversation with your partner. Thanks.
First off, just send a text. Hey, there's been some things on my mind that I would love to talk about sometime. And then it will kind of just set the stage or prime for the situation, and just let that person know, we're gonna have a talk. And then when you get down to it, when you start to talk about it, to always kind of speak from an I or personal experience, meaning I feel this, or I'm having a story that blah, blah, blah. Instead of speaking like, every time you don't take out the trash, you don't care about me. Instead of talking like that, which is very accusatory and it's already bringing out so much conflict, you should speak from like, I'm having a story that you don't really care about me when this happens. And to really avoid words like always and never, it's such a definitive and dismissive way of speaking, I feel. You always do this, you never do this. And even just saying, hey, this is something that's really difficult for me to talk about and I feel uncomfortable. Being very honest and transparent and being very vulnerable about that can hopefully elicit some empathy from your partner. But yeah, those are my 2 tips for send a text, set the stage, prime it, all that thing, and then when it comes down to it, really just speak from your personal experience and not to be accusatory or to use always and never. Like, I feel like you're judgmental. No, say it's like, I feel like I'm being judged when this happened. I actually don't know what the difficult conversation is about, so this might be totally not helpful, but I hope it's helpful. Anyways, if you want to be featured in the next video, I highly recommend just following me on Instagram. But yes, thank you so much for watching, and I will see you in my next one.